So, Money in the Bank this Sunday. It's one of my favorite pay-per-views of the year. And even though Raw hasn't been that good over the past few weeks with the whole wild card rule, which is terrible in my opinion, I choose to get excited about Money in the Bank because it's consistently a good show at least. So we're gonna get into some predictions, and we're gonna start with Daniel Bryan and Rowan defending the SmackDown Tag Titles against the Usos. This is a fairly straightforward one. I think Bryan and Rowan will retain. I think the Usos have done all they can on SmackDown, and whatever about the wildcard rule being constantly abused, I don't think a Raw team are going to take the SmackDown titles. Next up is the Cruiserweight title match between Tony Nese and Arya Daivari. I think Nese will retain as well. I don't think he's had enough time with the belt, and I just can't picture Daivari as champion, to be honest. Next up is Roman Reigns versus Elias. Roman Reigns will win, not a discussion. The Miz versus Shane McMahon in a steel cage. This one is a little bit more tricky, but to be honest, every match is more tricky than Reigns Elias. I think Miz will win just to get his win back from Mania. It's a bold prediction because I'm predicting both faces to win that are going against Shane, and Shane being the best wrestler in the world. Oh, rubbish. But I do think that Miz will want to get his win back from Mania, and then they might have one more match at Extreme Rules, which Shane will win, and then we'll get Roman Shane at SummerSlam. Next is Samoa Joe and Rey Mysterio for the US title, and I really don't know what to make of this one. I don't know who's going to win. I actually flipped a coin before I filmed this, and so I'm going for Mysterio. Next is Becky Two Belts. She's got two matches on Sunday, defending against Lacey Evans from Raw and Charlotte Flair from SmackDown. I'm going to lump both their matches into one prediction and say that I'd be astonished if Becky won both of these matches. I don't think Lacey is ready to be a champion, so I do think that Becky will win that one. But what I think will happen is Becky will barely survive. Lacey only needs a good showing to kind of establish herself. She doesn't really need to win, I think. So Becky will barely beat Lacey. She'll be down and out, knackered, exhausted. Then Charlotte Flair will come immediately waltzing out, fresh as a daisy, and get a quick win to get a cheap title reign. It fits Charlotte's entitled character perfectly. It protects Becky, and it'll let her focus on one show. Now, personally, I wouldn't mind at all if she retained them both. I think that would be great because I'm a massive Becky Lynch fan. But I don't think realistically it's going to happen. The Universal title match, Seth Rollins versus AJ Styles. This will probably be a great match. Of course, it's got Rollins and Styles, but I'm trying not to get my hopes up too much because Styles Nakamura, apart from their last man standing match, was a bit of a disappointing feud overall. This is another one that could go either way, but I think Seth will win this one, and then AJ will turn heel after the match. He's been teasing that for a while. And then he might win it at the next pay-per-view, maybe, but I don't think he'll do it here. Kofi Kingston and Kevin Owens for the WWE title. It's too early to let Kofi Mania end, I think. This is kind of a hard pick, but it also makes sense in my head as well. So, I love Kevin Owens, but I think it's the wrong time for him to be champion. It's Kofi's time for the time being. And now we move on to the Money in the Bank ladder matches, and we're going to start with the women. We got Bayley, Carmella, Ember Moon, Mandy Rose, Naomi, Natalya, Dana Brooke, and late replacement, Nikki Cross, filling in for Alexa Bliss. Now, I got 5 out of 8 of those women correct in my last video where I talked about who I thought was going to be in the match. It was 6, but then WWE screwed me by taking out Alexa and putting Nikki in. It's a tough call to see who's going to win this, but I do think it's going to go to SmackDown, and with that, I think I'm going to go for Bayley. Bayley's been on a road of kind of redemption, trying to find her mojo again by coming to SmackDown. And I think the briefcase is a good way for her to do that. I think she could cash in on Charlotte, and that could be a really good story kicked off with Bailey trying to prove herself again, kind of rehashing the NXT story with Sasha a bit, but I think it would work as well on the main roster. So it's a tough one, but I'm going to go for Bailey. And finally, the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. You got Ali, Andrade, Finn Balor, Randy Orton, Drew McIntyre, Ricochet, Baron Corbin, and another late replacement, Sami Zayn, taking the place of Braun Strowman. This is also very, very tough. For a long time, I've had it whittled down to two, Drew and Andrade. But both had storylines this week that made me kind of think that they're not going to win. Drew, he helped take Strowman out, so Strowman might come back to cost him. And Andrade won a fatal four-way on SmackDown, and that kind of gives away that he's not winning if tradition is to be believed. And I just don't think anyone else in the match has a real chance of winning, either because it doesn't really make storyline sense or they're just not ready. I'm going to go for Drew McIntyre because I think the feud with Braun Strowman can wait until after the pay-per-view. And it was rumored or reported that they're going to want to make a big, big star out of whoever wins this match. And I think Drew McIntyre has been in line for that for a while. You could say the same about Andrade, but with the women's briefcase going to SmackDown, I think the men's one will go to Raw, and so I'm going to go for Drew. So those are my Money in the Bank predictions. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give us a subscribe. I'll hopefully be posting a review of the pay-per-view after the show. And until then, I'll see you next time.